How do you build a movement? Is that even the right question? Is a movement something that you consciously build? To me, a movement is something that happens. And maybe what we can do is create the conditions for a movement to happen. The world that we see around us is built on a story. Every culture has a different set of answers to these basic questions of who are you? What is it to be a human being? What's important? What's valuable? Where do we come from? Where are we going? How does the world work? Every culture answers this in a different way. When we're young, we have this knowledge that the world is supposed to be much more beautiful than what has been offered to us as normal. We understand that, but that expectation gets betrayed again and again and again, and to protect it, we develop cynicism. As our ecosystems fall apart, our political system, our educational system, healthcare system falls apart, things aren't working so well anymore, and it's a lot harder to fully believe in our stories. So we're moving into a different story of self, a different story of the world, a different story of the people. The self of interconnectedness, the self of inner beingness. And we offer an alternative. This is something that's eminently practical. And any time that we give somebody an experience that doesn't fit into the old story, it weakens that old story. It disrupts it. It could be an act of generosity. It could be an act of forgiveness. Anything that violates that understanding that we're separate and everyone's in it for themselves. Being in service to something larger than yourself. And I would offer that as the formula for stepping into the flow of synchronicity. We can enter that state when we let go of the paradigm of control and bow into service to this thing larger than ourselves. And what is this thing? What is it that unifies all of these different things that we're committed to? Let's call it the more beautiful world our heart knows is possible. As you go about your life, in fact, right now, feel that part of you that knows that you are here in service. And ask yourself if you're ready to bow more deeply into that service. If you do it, I predict that you will experience an unexpected opportunity to act on that intention. And it'll be just at the edge of your courage, but not past it.
But what we're ultimately looking for is a sense of wholeness. What we're ultimately looking for is a sense of connectedness. So when you're doing your work and you're doing your quote unquote like activist work, what's your deepest intent? Why are you really doing it? Are we doing it for the wholeness? This thing that I'm talking about, I refer to it as spirit. You can call it whatever you want to, but a fundamental sense of the connectedness. And whenever we have any ills, is because there's a disconnect, a sense of separation. And the only way that we're ever going to make it to any kind of sanity, any kind of healing, any kind of transformation whatsoever is we must feel within ourselves and really believe that there's a connection. inexplicable, perhaps, but connected nonetheless. It's the driving force that keeps it all together.
My experience is, don't try to handle it alone. Don't go there. If you have recurrent responses of fear or confusion, this is the time to get together. This is what we've done from the beginning, by the way. There is powerful magic there. And the magic is synergy. That what you can't understand by yourself, you're not supposed to. You're supposed to understand it with others. The steps you want to take, you don't see by yourself. You see as you come together with others. And you exult in each other's originality. People can become each other's teachers and companions in learning and in preparing new ways to organize our lives and our communities. This is the time to listen to ourselves with each other.
The world story weaving through the minds and psyches of hundreds and millions of people. But the story is changing.
We're moving into a different story of self, a different story of the world, a different story of the people.
We have an opportunity to play a role in the greatest transition drama the world has ever seen.
Things aren't working so well anymore. It's a lot harder to fully believe in our stories, kind of birthing us into a new understanding of what's real and what's possible and who we are.
We're in the process of awakening on a mass scale.
We are entering somewhere where we've never even been before as a species.
We truly are living in an extraordinary time. We've never lived in a world where a small group can touch the lives of a billion people.
The secret to change is not fighting the old, but finding the power to fight for the new.
People who are voluntarily rising up and taking matters into their own hands. People who have become active in the transformation that's taking place in the world today. That movement, that unprecedented swelling up of the hidden mainstream, that's the biggest movement in human history.
Change the conversation from one about complaining about problems to one about solving problems and making your vision happen.
Every person has a unique and necessary role to play in this transition. That's why.
The new feminine has no gender. It's a principle that men and women both possess, defined by gentleness and compassion and heart. But women all over the world are finding a new power and the transformation of the world, and it is happening quicker.
The Pope, with his focus on compassion, has become the new voice of conscience.
Whether you have a spiritual perspective or a religious perspective, evolve the way we are together.
We are writing a different story than the one we've been led to believe is inevitable.
What we as young people in this generation have the potential to bring is being able to connect the dots.
Food justice,
Job security,
Immigration,
climate justice, access to education,
Women's empowerment,
nature's rights. They're all interconnected.
I'm seeing those bridges come together, that synergy between organizations that before thought there was nothing in common.
we are ultimately all working towards systemic change.
Hopeful. Yeah, I'm hopeful. I think hope is a glimpse of what's possible. So I am hopeful because, you know, I get these glimpses and experiences that show me that what I'm working for is real. You know, it's not just something I'm making up. So you might come out of this course, come out of this seminar room or wherever you are with this strong desire to do something, and maybe you kind of know what maybe you, quote, should do, but it seems a little bit too big right now, a little too scary. And I would say you don't need to force it. This isn't like some big heroic thing that you need to do. Instead, feel into that part of yourself that knows that when the moment is right, that you will do it, and that you will recognize that moment, and feel the gathering of the courage that's happening when that moment arrives.